Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to do something a little bit different. I'm going to keep it short and sweet and talk to you about React hooks. So if you've done things the hard way, welcome to the good life. So React hooks is state simplified. And if you don't know what state is and you learn by example, I highly recommend that you check out my very first tutorial, which is on this fruit blog up here. And that will give you a good introduction of state using the classic React.js way of handling state using React classes. Hooks, we can't use classes for. We have to use regular schmegular JavaScript functions, and that works just fine because hooks are going to simplify our life, and why not use functions if it's going to simplify your life? Okay, so the first hook that we're going to talk about is useState. By the way, the format for a hook, you know it's a hook if it starts with lowercase use and then is followed by upper camel case, the name of the hook. So we have useState, useEffect, and then we're going to talk about useCustomHooks. So here's our useState example. By the way, this is coming directly from the React.js documentation. So if you prefer reading, do a little Google search, look up React.js, go to the documentation, and go to the hook section. But if you like learning by talking, hearing intonation of somebody's voice, then you are in the right place and stay exactly where you are. So what's going on here? We're pulling in useState. We can see that we're pulling in this useState component from the React library. So far, so good. And then here's where we initiate it. So we're passing in a value of 0. We're going to talk about that in a second. And then what we're getting back out is an array. So we're getting a count value, and then we're also getting set count, which as it turns out is going to be a function, which basically is going to handle changing state for us. So if you remember from the classic way, changing state is a whole thing. You have to use the set state function specifically, and you have to handle what classes actually have access to state and can use state by binding. And with useState, you don't have to worry about any of that anymore. It will do it for you. So here's what's going on. 0, as it turns out, is the initial value of this state variable count. And then set count is a function. We're giving it a name here. We're calling it set count. And by the way, that's also a formality, is to name your set functions with lowercase set and then capital whatever that variable is, capital camel case. So what's going on here is we have printed out on the DOM, you clicked count times. So remember, count is our state variable, and it's going to start off as this initial value of 0. So when we first render this onto the DOM, it's going to say you clicked 0 times. And then here we have a button where the unclick function, we're setting it to this set count function that we defined using useState. And then we're passing in the new value that we want our count variable to be set as. So every time we click the button, count is going to increase by 1, and we're going to see updated onto the DOM, you clicked 1 times, 2 times, 3 times, etc. And this may seem very simple to you if you've only experienced hooks, but if you were used to like jumping through hoops to use state the way that we did with React prior to hooks, then this is really great. Okay, so the next example of a hook is going to be useEffect. And again, here's an example from the React documentation. And I'm not going to go through the nitty-gritty of this example. I'm just going to explain exactly what useEffect is doing here. So useEffect is a hook that's replacing component did mount and component will unmount from pre-hooks, before hooks times BH. So we had component did mount is something that would happen whenever you have a component that's rendering onto the DOM that calls on, say, this function front status. Then when you have a component did mount function, which we don't see here because we're using hooks instead, but component did mount would perform some function as soon as that component is rendered onto the DOM. And then the equivalent function component will unmount will perform a function as soon as that component is taken off of the DOM. So here we have an example from the documentation that looks like it's something like a instant messenger app. So let's go back to the early 2000s and think about AIM. So let's say that you log into your AIM, and now what you see as soon as you log in is your friends who are online in a list, unless that they say they're offline, but they're really online. Sneaky, sneaky. I did that. But, okay, so now you're going to see your friends who are online, and then you see also a list of your friends who are offline at the time. And so what would be happening if code similar to this was being used is that as soon as you log in, and now that information is coming onto your DOM, you're going to be doing something equivalent to subscribing to friend status so that you can see the green circle or the red circle that says whether your friend is offline, busy, or like the neutral circle if they're not online. So what's happening is as soon as you log in, this component comes up on the DOM, and then this initial component did mount effect is happening, which here is some function called subscribe to friend status. Now, as long as you're online, if you have a friend who's online and then like their mom calls them for dinner and they have to leave and log out and be offline, you're going to see that change. So the circle next to their name is going to go from green to neutral, or green to red if they switch their status to busy. So you can think of your computer running in the background and like constantly checking and being like, okay, is Tony still here? Is Tony still here? Is Tony still here? And if he's not here, it's going to update that circle to the neutral color or to red. And likewise, if you have another friend, Alice, who's offline, your computer is going to be like, is Alice online now? Is Alice online now? And it's using up its memory space to keep checking and see when she comes online. And then it's going to update her circle to green. So you don't want that to keep going on forever and ever in your application once you're no longer monitoring that information. So as soon as you take that list off of the DOM, you want to stop subscribing to your friend's status. So in this useEffect, like previously, we would have used component will unmount to unsubscribe from friend status so that our CPU is no longer going on in the background, using up memory space when it's not something that we should be worrying about anymore because we no longer see it on our graphical user interface, or GUI, as users. So here, using useEffect, we no longer have to have those two different functions, component did mount and component will unmount. We can just have whatever's in the initial part of useEffect, that's what's going to run on component did mount. Whatever is in this return function, that's going to run in component will unmount, which is whenever our component is removed from the DOM. Do you get it? Do you understand what I'm saying? Is this helpful? Please let me know in the comments because I really value your feedback and I haven't been getting any. Okay. And then lastly, we're going to talk about useCustomHook. And all I'm going to say about this is, what does it mean to be a custom hook? Two things. One, by convention, it just means that you used the lowercase u's followed by uppercase camel case of whatever you want to name your hook. That's convention. And two, it's a function, right, with that naming convention. And then two, it just means that you used other predefined hooks within this function. So here, you have this custom hook called useFriendStatus, and then you're using within it useState right over here and useEffect right over here. And that's it, you guys. That's hooks. So you can already see how this makes your life so much simpler because we no longer have to run through hooks to define and change state, run through hoops, excuse me. And we also no longer have to do separate functions, component did mount and component will unmount. We just use this useEffect hook and that's going to take care of it for us. So if you like this video, please give it a big ol' like. Subscribe to my channel so you see more videos like this, and hit that notification bell. And also, since this is a different format than what I've been doing, please let me know if you like these short form videos in the comments. I appreciate you.